The film opens with the haunting image of a man drowning. As the water engulfs him, we hear his voice echo in the background. Everything I did for her. I gave her everything. Why wasn't that enough? Cut to a somber funeral scene. We're introduced to our main character, Eric Blake, a broken man, devastated by loss. He's just buried the most important person in his life, his wife. As the coffin is lowered, Eric notices something unsettling in the distance, a dark figure standing in the shadows. Suddenly, the coffin begins to shake violently. Eric jolts awake. He's at home. It was just a nightmare, but the pain is real. His wife has died recently, and Eric hasn't been the same since. His only companion now is his loyal dog, Baxter. Sitting in silence, sipping coffee, Eric stares blankly at the newspaper until an unusual job posting catches his eye. A remote island in Scotland is looking for a shepherd to take care of 600 sheep. The place is completely isolated, and maybe that's exactly what Eric wants. Distance from the grief, from the memories. He doesn't think twice. He decides to take the job, but something strange begins to stir inside the house. Eric sees a small hand reaching out from the cupboard. When he checked, there was only a picture of an unborn child. The next day, Eric sets off toward the island. On the way, he stops by his parents' home. He knocks on the door. His mother answers, but instead of warmth, she greets him with cold fury. She blames Eric for marrying a woman she never accepted, a woman who was an atheist. In her eyes, Eric not only turned his back on religion, but also on his family. She refuses to forgive him, even in his grief. Eric, heartbroken, walks away in silence. He finds himself sitting by a lake, consumed by thoughts. He throws away his wedding ring, takes out a small knife. He considers ending it all, but he can't go through with it. Just then, he spots a sheep in the distance. That single moment pulls him back. He remembers why he set out on this journey, and he decides to move forward. Next, we see him in a boat with a woman named Fisher, the one who offered him the job. Fisher is strange. One of her eyes is visibly damaged, and there's something off about her presence. Before reaching the island, Fisher asks, "Do you smoke?" Eric replies no, though he carries a lighter. It belonged to his wife. Fisher asks if his wife is with him. Eric doesn't respond. Curious, Fisher then asks how he found the job. He says he saw the ad in a newspaper, but Fisher presses again, "No, how did this job find you?" Eric avoids the question, simply saying he wanted to be alone. That's why he accepted the offer. Soon, they arrive on the desolate island. Fisher shows him an old cottage and a lighthouse, but she doesn't step beyond a certain point, almost like there's an invisible boundary she won't cross. She hands Eric a set of keys. "This is your home now," she says. "The water doesn't always run. There's a generator. Fix it if you can. The phone won't work during bad weather. There's a map inside. Hopefully, you'll be fine." As she turns to leave, Eric asks, "That's it? You're just leaving me here?" Fisher replies coldly, "This isn't my place." She gives him a blank journal to document anything important and tells him she'll return next Tuesday with supplies. Then she's gone, and Eric is completely alone. Inside, the cottage is in rough shape, but after cleaning it up, he manages to make it livable. When he turns on the tap, no water. He consults the map to find a fresh spring nearby. Taking Baxter with him, Eric heads out. At the spring, he discovers a ring, old and rusted. It might have belonged to someone who lived on the island before him. He pockets it. Back at the cottage, he fixes a broken clock on the wall. Later, when he picks up a cup, a familiar one, memories of his wife come rushing back. It used to be hers. Before nightfall, Eric tries to feed the sheep and count them using the journal, but his mind is clouded. He's still deeply unsettled. That evening, he flips through the old journals left behind in the cottage. One page reads, "She's a witch." We don't yet know who it refers to, but we will. The bedroom is upstairs. That's when we learn something crucial about Eric. He suffers from acrophobia, a fear of heights. Gathering his courage, Eric climbs to the upper floor of the cottage, but something feels off. His dog, Baxter, grows restless, alert and uneasy, as if he senses something wrong with the place. It's clear this house isn't welcoming. That night, a violent storm hits the island. The wind howls, and strange noises echo through the darkness. Eric hears whispering, soft, unsettling voices drifting through the air. Sleep evades him. His eyes keep darting toward the lighthouse outside. Ever since he arrived on the island, he's been hearing these whispers. Maybe it's all in his head. He is the only human out here, after all. The next morning, Eric wakes up feeling shaken and oddly confused. Something doesn't sit right. Then he notices something strange. There's a hot cup of tea on the table, freshly made, but he doesn't remember making it. Did someone else prepare it? Brushing it off, he gets ready and goes out to feed the sheep. And then, something eerie happens. As soon as the sheep see him, they all start making noise. Not normal bleating, but panicked, almost alarmed sounds. It's as if they sense someone or something nearby. Eric is stunned, but the moment he shouts, the sheep fall dead silent. Then, creepily, they all just stare at him. Every single one. Eric panics and runs back to the cottage. In a burst of emotion, he grabs the teacup that belonged to his wife and smashes it. The memories were becoming too much to bear. Later that same day, Eric steps outside and catches a glimpse of Fisher. She's back on the island, standing outside the lighthouse. But something's strange. She doesn't speak to Eric. She doesn't even look at him. He calls out her name, but she just turns and walks away. Eric is left puzzled and disturbed. He wants to follow her into the lighthouse, but to do that, he'd have to climb the stairs, and Eric is terrified of heights. So, he stays back, even though curiosity is eating at him. What was Fisher doing here, and what did she leave behind? Night falls again. Eric cautiously heads upstairs to sleep, but Baxter starts growling, low warning sounds. It's like the dog knows. They're not alone. Trying to ignore it, Eric finally falls asleep, only to be trapped in another nightmare. In his dream, he sees his wife, but she's locked inside a cage, lost and afraid. Behind her, a black shadow creeps closer, its presence dark, threatening, terrifying. Eric wakes up in a cold sweat, and what he sees next is even more shocking. His mother is in the kitchen, calmly making breakfast. Eric is stunned. "What? How did you get here?" She doesn't answer. Instead, she does what she's always done, blames him for everything, curses his dead wife, and scolds him like a child. But Eric, still reeling from grief and exhaustion, doesn't fight back. He just eats. It's the first proper meal he's had in days, but as he washes the dishes, something doesn't feel right. His mother's behavior begins to shift. Something is very wrong. Shaken by the strange breakfast encounter, Eric turns to his mother and asks, "How did you even know I was here? How did you get on this island?" But instead of answering, she picks up a knife, and then, in front of Eric's horrified eyes, she begins slicing her own hand. Her voice changes. Her face contorts. She's no longer the same person. Then, gripping the knife, she lunges toward him, attacking. Eric screams and wakes up. It was another nightmare. He rushes downstairs, but the cottage is empty. His mother is gone. There's no doubt now. Eric's mind is unraveling, and things only get worse. His dog, Baxter, is missing. Eric calls for him, no response. The dog is nowhere in the house. Suddenly the phone rings. It's Fisher. She asks calmly, "Are you all right?" Eric replies, "Yeah, but something feels off." To that, Fisher simply says, "Then it's starting." Eric asks, "Did you come to the island yesterday?" "Yes," she says, "but I couldn't find you." Eric tells her Baxter is missing. Fisher replies, "Then you need to find him," and hangs up. Eric slaps himself, trying to snap out of what feels like yet another hallucination. But this is real. Determined, he heads out into the fog to search for Baxter. The island is now completely shrouded in mist. He doesn't find his dog, but in the distance, he sees a dark figure. As he approaches, he realizes it's not a person, just a large rock. Disoriented by the fog, Eric keeps wandering until he stumbles upon the wreck of an old ship, rusted and decaying. Inside, he finds something unusual, a key. As he pockets it, he senses something. There's a shadow behind him. He doesn't turn around, but he feels it watching. Quietly, he slips away. Alone and losing grip on reality, Eric returns to the cottage. The silence is deafening. The room he sleeps in has an old wardrobe, and for days, he's felt like something is hiding inside it. One day, he finally works up the nerve, grabs a knife and flings the doors open. Inside, nothing but a bird figurine. But not just any bird, it has a single eye replaced with a button. Strange. Later, he realizes the sheep have gone missing too. He searches the island and spots them far off in the hills, but the peace doesn't last. Back at the cottage, the phone rings again. It's Fisher, and this time, her voice is different, darker. Eric tells her, "I want to go home. Something's not right here." But Fisher replies coldly, "This is your home now, and your punishment begins." Eric, on the verge of tears, pleads, "It was an accident. I didn't mean to. I didn't do anything." But Fisher doesn't listen. She cuts the call. What is this accident Eric keeps referring to? What is he hiding? That secret, the true cause of his guilt, is still waiting to be revealed. Haunted and desperate, Eric decides it's time to do the one thing he's avoided all this time: enter the lighthouse. Using the key he found on the ship, he unlocks the door. Inside, the place is covered in dust and filled with bird figurines, each one missing an eye, replaced with a single button. Trembling, Eric begins to climb the stairs. He reaches the top and flips the switch. The lighthouse beams to life. Far away, Fisher watches the light. Her face says it all. She didn't want him to go in there. As Eric climbs down from the lighthouse, he slips, falling hard to the ground. His head hits the floor with a thud, leaving him dazed and injured. But what he sees next is beyond horrifying. Outside, all of the sheep have been slaughtered. Their lifeless bodies are hanging grotesquely on a giant wooden cross. Among them, he finds something that breaks him completely. Baxter, his beloved dog, is dead too. Devastated, Eric begins to question reality. He starts to believe he might already be dead, that this island is hell itself. In despair, he locks himself inside the house. He starts seeing visions again, a mysterious child that keeps appearing. The grief, the guilt, the voices, they become too much to bear. Finally, Eric pours gasoline across the floor. He wants to burn the cursed house to the ground, but before he can light the match, she appears. The entity reveals her face, and it's his wife. She looks at him with pain in her eyes, asking only one question. "Why, Eric? Why did you do it?" Panicked, Eric sets the house on fire and runs out, but the entity follows him. He races toward the lake. Fisher's boat is floating nearby, but she doesn't help him. She just watches. With no other choice, Eric dives into the water. He begins to drown, but at the last moment, he's pulled out. The next scene takes us to a police station. Eric has survived. A detective sits across from him, questioning everything. That's when Eric finally reveals the truth, the secret he's been hiding all along. He confesses, "I killed my wife." The detective is confused. "But the report said you were the only one in the car that night." Eric explains, "I was drunk. I was driving. The car lost control and got stuck on a cliff, but I'm terrified of heights, so I jumped out. She was pregnant. The car slipped, and she died. I killed 2 people that day." The detective says nothing and walks away. Moments later, the phone rings. It's Fisher. She's furious. "You shouldn't have run from the island," she says coldly. "There will be consequences." Eric pleads, "I've confessed. I've accepted everything. Please, just let me go." But Fisher replies, "No, Eric. You can never leave that place." Then she says something even more chilling. "I killed your mother, and when you asked me who I am, I told you I am the servant of the hand of fate." She hangs up. Eric turns to see a door in front of him. He opens it. A blinding light floods in, and just like that, Eric is back on the island, trapped. And that is where the story ends. So, what was it all about? This film is a journey through guilt and regret. Eric couldn't overcome his fear of heights, and because of that, he let his pregnant wife die. Now, the island, Fisher, and all the ghostly events, they could very well be a manifestation of his tortured mind, his grief, his hallucinations, his inner demons, all playing out on that lonely island. Maybe he even killed his own mother, blaming her for the misery that consumed his life. Or, if you believe in the supernatural, then the island is real, and Fisher is a demon, punishing those who run from their sins. That choice, it's yours.